what are some good practices when using them? As a disclaimer, you will not be able to follow along in this tutorial and do it on your own, unfortunately, since this setup only works when you are a room owner or a room co-owner. But you are free to try this in your own room if you want. The first thing you're going to want to do is open your watch. Then go to this room, and then click the Settings tab. From there, look for the Currencies tab, and select it. Click Next when you're ready to continue. Hey there again! Alright, welcome to the second video of this course. Alright, let's click this Add Currency button. We want our currency to be after our lattes in our cafe, so we're going to name it Lattes. We're going to give it a nice description, and then we want to set a daily limit. So this is the maximum amount a player can earn in a day, and by earn we mean earn from circuits. But since this is a clicker game, we're probably going to set it to the max, since, you know, we don't really want people to be limited. Unless that's your thing, then you do you. But for this example, we're going to type 1 billion. Next, we can add currency packages. So what are these? Currency packages are essentially a way that you can have your players pay tokens to earn. Next, let's move on to consumables. Click the consumable tab. By default, you won't have any consumable in your room, but that's okay. We're going to make consumables. Click the Add Consumable button. From this tab, we can edit the image of our consumable. We can give it a name. In this case, wouldn't it be funny if we hired goblin baristas to help us make our lattes? So in this case, we're going to name this one a goblin barista. The description, and as the description just says, we're going to, in step 3, make this consumable grant +1 automatic latte per second. So we're going to be creating this automatic system with this consumable. Under consumable, alright, let's do it one more time. This time it's going to be for a much higher amount of automatic. So let's name this one Elite. Alright, just making some lattes. Oh hey, to learn lattes, and I can hire goblin employees if I want to. Alright, let's get started. Alright, if you've done what I taught you in step 1, and you've also created consumables as I shown in step 2 and your currency, then you're good to go for now. Now this tutorial is mainly going to be teaching you how to use the incremental game kit invention that I created that will be on this link button right here, right next to the screen that you're watching right now. When you spawn this invention, it should look a bit like this, except the sprites that were created are not going to be a part of it. They are a different invention you'll be able to find as well after this course is over. The first thing you're going to want to do is you'll want to configure a couple of things just to make sure everything works fine. You'll want to make sure that any events that says undefined events say whatever your variable for your currency is and then changed. So in this case, it's lattes changed. To configure, you open your MakerPen menu, go to Tools, and select Configure. Click on it, click Chip Settings, select the event, and find the event that corresponds to your variable's name with changed right after. Do that for all of them that I say with the common chip that needs to be configured. For this one, it needs to be configured to time changed, which is an event that will be available by spawning this invention, and I'll explain later why. A couple more comments. Over here, you can change the second value on the added chip to the value each consumable should grant. I'll go over that in a bit. And the consumables, we'll be configuring them to what our consumables should be in the end. The first thing we need to know is how to make the auto-click system work. And by that, we're updating once every second. To do this, it's the 3-chip system right up here that does it. This system will update your auto-click variable once per second. We use an update 30 Hz event receiver, which fires constantly, with a time get unsynced universal seconds chip. We connect that to our time variable. And what this means is every time this number changes, which is once per second, this time changed event will be firing. And thus, we'll be updating a variable once per second. We're updating it to support the autoclicks variable that we made. So in the end, with this invention, whatever is in autoclicks is added on top of what your lattes count is every second. If this is 0, then nothing should happen. Your variable should remain normal. As soon as your lattes changes, the lattes changed event will fire, which will add a currency using the add currency chip, which will be the same amount as your lattes variable. One more thing about the add currency chip. You may get an error when you're trying to give a currency. Make sure you configure the chip and select the currency. In this case, let's select lattes and make sure. If you spawn this invention, feel free to rename the lattes variable to something else and change the event to mesh. After we add a currency, we run through a text set text chip, which in this case you can connect any text gadgets using the connect tool to the target. In this case, it is this one over here. This text that I renamed latte is connected and is being set. And again, as we learned in step 2, and again as we learned in step 1, we have our toString that converts our number of lattes into a text, and then we set it to our text. Press next when you're ready to continue. Alright, just making some lattes. Oh hey, how's it going? Welcome to the third video of this course. Here, we're going to learn how to mix what you learned in step 1 and 2 together to create a complete incremental game, just like the one I'm doing right now, where I can make lattes and I can hire goblin employees if I want to. Alright, let's get started. Alright, if you've done what I taught you in step 1, and you've also created consumables as I showed in step 2 and your currency, then you're good to go for now. Now this tutorial is mainly going to be teaching you how to use the incremental game kit invention that I created that will be on this link button right here, right next to the screen that you're watching right now. When you spawn this invention, it should look a bit like this, except the sprites that were created are not going to be a part of it. They are a different invention you'll be able to find as well after this course is over. The first thing you're going to want to do is you'll want to configure a couple of things just to make sure everything works fine. You'll want to make sure that any events that says undefined events say whatever your variable for your currency is and then change. It's to continue. This next step will let us understand what a consumable constant is and how do we use it. First, we have an event receiver with consumable used. When a player uses a consumable, this will fire and it will tell the local player which consumable they're using. What we need to do is we need to compare it. If we have multiple consumables, we don't know which one is being used and we have to figure that part out. This is where the consumable constant comes into play. I have 2 set up here in this invention, but you can always add more. And I'll show you how to add more after this. Use the configure tool in your tools menu to configure one of them. Click choose existing consumable, or if you want, you can create a new one. And we're going to just select our Goblin Barista from step 2. We'll do the same with the one below, and we'll configure it to our Elite Goblin Barista. So what this does is it checks if our consumable we're using equals to one of them, and if not, it checks if it's the other one. And then it uses a consumable activate chip, which will activate the consumable on the player's watch. Then what it does is, this is where the add chip value, the second value I mentioned, comes into play. We can configure that however we want, but let's say our Goblin Barista consumable, it gives us 1 click per second, 1 latte per second. So we can configure the second value to say 1. Our Elite Goblin value should be actually 5. It says 20 right now. So let's just change that to 5. Then it deactivates the consumable. And after both are done, it simply sets a text, this text, to say how many auto clicks do I have. So again, it says it right here, connect the text input to your text gadget. If you're using a different text, then yeah, you can just connect it. Let's say I want to have a third, or I want to have more consumables. How do I use this invention and add more? The answer is simple. The first thing you're going to want to do is select the following chips. Equals, if consumable activate, auto clicks and add, as well as consumable deactivate. Then using your tools, select the clone/flip tool and clone the chips. Next, take the consumable constant from earlier and clone that as well. Configure it to whatever you want. In this case, I'm not going to create a new consumable, but let's say you have a third consumable, configure it to that. Then go back to your tools, use the connect tool, connect the consumable output of the event receiver to the A value of the equals chip, and our consumable constant to the B value of the equals chip. Then connect the else execution from our last consumable series or graph we had, and connect that to the input of this if chip. Connect consumable activate to our consumable constant. Same thing with consumable deactivate. Connect the execution for consumable deactivate to the text set text chip up here. And configure the add value to whatever your value is supposed to be. I'll do 15 in this example. And there you go. You now have a third consumable working. And you can repeat that however you want. Press next when you're ready to continue. The next thing you can do is create a storefront. To do this, go to your palette and search for storefront. Then spawn it in. Select the configure tool and click let's get started. Select edit storefront